Welcome to the Jaco Report. I'm Charles Jaco. In St. Louis, like every place else, the number of people losing their jobs is soaring while the values of our houses and our retirement savings plummet. Today, Obama-nomics. A WashU economist examines whether the president-elect can get us out of this ditch. Plus, Obama and St. Louis's shaky race relations. What's his election mean to blacks and to whites? And what's it tell us about America vintage 2008? And finally, Governor Blunt rips into Fox 2 political analyst Ken Warren for claiming racism may have cost Obama Missouri. Who's right? We'll take a look. But first, Barack Obama and your economic future.
We need a rescue plan for the middle class that invests in immediate efforts to create jobs and provide relief to families that are watching their paychecks shrink and their life savings disappear. A particularly urgent priority is a further extension of unemployment insurance benefits for workers who cannot find work in the increasingly weak economy. A fiscal stimulus plan that will jumpstart economic growth is long overdue. I've made it a high priority for my transition team to work on additional policy options to help the auto industry adjust, weather the financial crisis, and succeed in producing fuel-efficient cars here in the United States of America. Now, we are going to need to see a stimulus package passed, either before or after inauguration. The goal of my plan is to provide tax relief to families that are struggling, but also to boost the capacity of the economy to grow from the bottom up.
And for an English translation of that, we're pleased to be joined by Professor Stephen Fazzari. He's economics professor at Washington University and associate director of the Wiedenbaum Center on the Economy, Government, and Public Policy at WashU. Steve, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here, Charles.
When he talks about stimulus, what does he mean? Another round of cash or checks to the American public that we spend on a one-shot basis? Or when he says we've got to pass an economic stimulus plan, what's that mean in plain English?
Basically, he needs to get spending going in the economy again. We've seen consumer spending drop in the last quarter for the first time since the 1980s. And to get business going, they have to sell goods, and for them to sell goods, people have to spend. So he has to find some kind of policy lever to get people spending. That could be a tax cut, that could be government programs that directly inject spending into the economy.
Now, when you say government programs that directly inject spending into the economy, like what?
Infrastructure program, for example, something to repair bridges, to deal with harbors, airports, fix these kinds of things.
In other words, creating jobs, sort of like FDR did with the WPA in the 30s, except this time to repair bridges, roads, that sort of thing?
Yes, exactly. This is a time when the economy is moving into a recession. We have lots of unemployment. We have lots of slack resources. The government has to get those resources into use again. And one way to do that is by bringing them into projects, things that benefit our society in various ways. Infrastructure could be one thing. This could be a time when we might pursue things on the environment, for example, and try to see our energy technologies improve. It may be hard to do that over the very short period of time, but I expect something like that will come as part of this.
Obama said during his campaign he was going to raise taxes or put taxes back to the rate they were under the Clinton administration for people earning over $250,000 a year, and everybody else would get a tax cut. Is it a bad idea to raise taxes on anybody for any reason when you're going into a recession? Might he put that off, or do you think he'll go ahead with it and adjust the taxes for the $250,000 and up back to a higher level?
I haven't heard anything directly about this. I'd be surprised to see any kind of tax increase in the next year or two. One of the concerns that's going to happen with this stimulus package is that people will be worried about the effect on the deficit. Economists often believe that while deficits can be very helpful when the economy is weak, they'd like to see the budget balanced or close to balanced when the economy is strong.
What could Obama conceivably do right out of the gate? It's been said that politically, if you've got a honeymoon and you're heading into a bad period of governance, you know the honeymoon's going to be short, so grab the tough stuff around the neck right at the beginning. Get it out of the way. What's the one biggest nut he should crack if he wants to spend his political capital, and the toughest, ugliest thing he would have to deal with immediately? What would you recommend?
I don't know if it's ugly, but it's very politically difficult, and that would be to tackle the huge problem in health care. We have a large portion of the American population that's uninsured. These people do get health care often, as I think President Bush pointed out some years ago, but they do it in a very inefficient way by going to the emergency room. They don't have preventive care. The politics of this issue are very, very difficult.
Nationalized health care? What used to quaintly be called socialized medicine?
Well, so national health care programs seem to work reasonably well in other developed countries, Japan and Europe in particular. I don't think that's going to be politically feasible in the U.S., at least in the short term, but I do think it may be possible to extend programs that are really quite popular, things like Medicare or the Veterans Health programs, to a broader proportion of the population, and maybe give people a choice between a government-sponsored program and private insurance.
And this would lower health care costs in how?
The hope would be that it would lower healthcare costs in several ways, mostly by providing a basis for Americans to get their health care more efficiently. If you have the flu, you don't need to go to the emergency room. If you are not getting preventive care, that can be penny wise and pound foolish, putting off the problems into the future. So a system that gives Americans the incentive to get the good preventive care they need and to use the resources we have efficiently. Also, by having the government in the healthcare industry, it provides a strong negotiator. In particular, I think the Europeans have been quite successful at bringing down drug prices by using the government's power.
Real quickly, we only have a couple of minutes left. He mentioned the auto industry, the only specific industry he mentioned. Whether we agree with it or not, it looks like some sort of federal help's going to be coming for the big three. What form do you think that might take? Low-interest loans? Will the government buy part of them like it has part of the mortgage industry? What'll happen?
I haven't seen the specific proposals once again. Personally, I have mixed feelings about the auto industry. It's been having trouble for 30 years, and as an economist, and I think many others would agree with me, I have some concern about subsidizing that industry continually, but it's such a large industry, and it's facing such big problems right now that I think some kind of help is going to come. That said, I'd be in favor of something that would look something like what they're doing with the banks, which is if they're going to put some money into it, then they should get something back. And if there's a turnaround and an upswing, then the government and the taxpayers should benefit from that. So some kind of a loan, but that can be converted into equity that benefits if the industry is improved.
Final question, have you heard or seen anything that might speak to people being able to stay in their homes? I mean, even if they were dumb and they took out much more mortgage than they could possibly afford, the problem seems to be falling home values and people losing their homes. Wouldn't it make more sense to inject liquidity right there and say, okay, we're going to help you pay off your mortgages or something, or is that unrealistic?
I would expect something like that to happen, especially now that Barack Obama has won the election. I think that part of the bailout money will go directly to helping people stay in their homes, and I think that'll be a good thing, but it's difficult because people will. It's hard to know who to help. It's hard to know which folks get the help, how much they get, and people that don't get the help are going to resent that. So the politics of this are very difficult.
How do you expect this to come out? I mean, they say Obama has no executive experience. What do you think of what he's done so far?
He's obviously a very cool character, and one of the subjective aspects of his election is that hopefully Americans will begin to have some confidence that this person can help turn things around. It's psychological, but I think that could be a major factor. He's going to move aggressively, but at the same time he has to manage expectations. There's only so much a president can do. The problems we have are not all the fault of President Bush, and President-elect Obama will not be able to solve them. Completely. We're in for, I think, a long recession, and people are going to have to be patient.
Thanks for coming in. We appreciate it.
Bye.
When we come back, what does Obama's election mean to race relations? Are whites less racist than in years past? Does it mean African Americans can no longer complain about racism? The Jaco Report returns in just a couple of minutes.